Hey there, fellow gardeners. Welcome back to Roothaven Grounds. Today I'm thrilled to share one of my absolute favorite crops to grow, sweet potatoes. If you've been following along on the channel, you know I'm all about helping you grow more food with less fuss, and sweet potatoes are genuinely one of the most rewarding vegetables you can cultivate in your home garden. They're forgiving, they're productive, and honestly, there's something magical about pulling up those beautiful tubers after months of watching the vines sprawl across your garden beds. Whether you're completely new to gardening or you've got a few seasons under your belt, I promise you'll find success with sweet potatoes. Let me walk you through everything you need to know to get an impressive harvest right in your own backyard. Before we dig into the how-to, let's talk about why sweet potatoes deserve a prime spot in your garden. Unlike their distant cousins, regular potatoes, sweet potatoes are actually part of the morning glory family. This means they love warmth, they produce gorgeous trailing vines, and they're incredibly efficient at converting sunshine and water into those delicious, nutritious tubers we're after. What I love most about sweet potatoes is their dual-purpose nature. While you're waiting for those tubers to develop underground, the vines themselves are edible. The tender tips make fantastic sautéed greens. Plus, sweet potatoes are genuinely low maintenance once established. They're drought-tolerant, pest-resistant, and they actually improve your soil by adding organic matter and breaking up compacted earth with their extensive root systems. This is where things get exciting. At Roothaven Grounds, I always encourage you to experiment with different varieties, because each one brings something unique to the table. For beginners, I strongly recommend starting with Beauregard or Georgia Jet. Beauregard is the classic orange-fleshed variety you see in grocery stores. Reliable, high-yielding, and ready to harvest in about 100 to 110 days. Georgia Jet is my go-to for shorter growing seasons because it matures faster, usually around 90 days, and it handles cooler temperatures better than most varieties. If you want to get adventurous, try Murasaki or Hawaiian purple varieties for their stunning purple flesh, or go with O. Henry if you prefer a drier, white-fleshed sweet potato that's perfect for savory dishes. The key is matching your variety to your climate and growing season length. About 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date, grab an organic sweet potato from the store or save one from last year's harvest. Place it in a jar with the bottom half submerged in water, using toothpicks to suspend it. Set this on a sunny windowsill, and within 2 weeks, you'll see shoots emerging. Once these shoots reach about 6 inches tall with several leaves, carefully twist them off the potato. Place these in water until roots develop, usually within a week. Each sweet potato can produce 10 to 15 slips, which means one tuber can supply your entire garden. This is exactly why I love teaching this method to the Roothaven Grounds community. It's economical and incredibly empowering to create your own planting material. Alright, let's talk about getting your planting site ready. Sweet potatoes really thrive on warmth, not just in the air but in the soil too. It's important to wait until your soil temperature reaches at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit before you transplant those slips outside. In most regions, this means late spring or early summer is the right time. Patience is key here because, honestly, cold soil will stunt growth and dramatically reduce your harvest. Be sure to choose the sunniest spot in your garden. Sweet potatoes need at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight each day to produce those big tubers we all want. And make sure the soil is loose and well draining, since waterlogged roots can lead to rot. From my own experience, sweet potatoes actually do best in slightly sandy or loamy soil instead of heavy clay. If your garden has heavy soil like mine did when I started out, work in plenty of compost, and maybe even think about creating raised beds or mounds. And here's something that surprises a lot of gardeners. Don't go overboard with nitrogen fertilizer. Too much nitrogen will give you beautiful, lush vines, but only tiny tubers. Okay, so once your slips have developed healthy root systems and The outdoor conditions are finally right. It's planting time. Create mounds or ridges about 12 inches high and space them about 3 feet apart in rows that are 4 feet apart. Now, this spacing might seem pretty generous, but trust me, those vines will fill every inch of space, and the mounds ensure excellent drainage while providing loose soil for the tubers to expand freely. Go ahead and bury each slip deep, leaving only the top few leaves exposed. Doing this encourages extensive root development along the buried stem, which translates directly to more sweet potatoes per plant. After you've got your slips in the ground, water thoroughly and keep the soil consistently moist for the first 2 weeks while the slips establish themselves. Personally, I like to use a gentle watering can rather than a strong hose spray because honestly, those young slips are pretty delicate. Once your sweet potato plants are established, they're actually pretty self-sufficient. That's part of what makes them perfect for beginners and, well, busy gardeners too. Just water deeply about once a week during dry periods, but once those vines start running, they become quite drought tolerant. In fact, reducing water slightly during the last 3 to 4 weeks before harvest actually concentrates the sugars in the tubers, making them sweeter. As the vines grow, they'll spread enthusiastically. Some gardeners like to keep them contained, but I've learned to let them roam. Those vines shade the soil, suppress weeds, and create their own mulch system. However, if you're growing in a smaller space, you can train them onto trellises or redirect wandering vines back toward the planting area. One important tip I share with the Roothaven Grounds community is to avoid disturbing the vines once they're established. When vines root at the nodes along their length, they can divert energy away from the main tuber production. If you see vines rooting beyond your main growing area, gently lift and reposition them without allowing those secondary roots to establish. This is where patience truly pays off. Sweet potatoes need a full growing season to develop those large, satisfying tubers. The signal I watch for is when the leaves start yellowing and the vines begin to die back naturally, usually after the first light frost in fall. However, don't wait for a hard freeze. That can damage the tubers. In warmer climates without frost, harvest when the foliage starts looking tired, typically in late fall. For maximum storage life, it's best to harvest sweet potatoes on a dry, sunny day when the soil isn't too wet. I recommend using a garden fork rather than a shovel. Just carefully dig about 18 inches away from the plant base to avoid spearing those precious tubers. Gently lift the entire root mass and, honestly, you'll be amazed at what you find. Often 6 to 10 pounds per plant when conditions are right. Handle sweet potatoes carefully because their thin skins bruise easily when fresh. Brush off excess soil but don't wash them yet. This is really crucial for proper curing and storage. Curing is what separates okay sweet potato growers from those who enjoy harvests that last all the way through winter. It converts starches to sugars, heals minor cuts, and toughens the skin, making the sweet potatoes ready for storage. Place your unwashed sweet potatoes in a warm location, ideally around 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit with high humidity, for about 10 to 14 days. Personally, I use a spare bathroom or laundry room where I can maintain these conditions pretty easily. After curing, just brush off any remaining soil and store them in a cool, dark location around 55 to 60 degrees. Properly cured sweet potatoes can last 6 months or even longer, providing your family with homegrown nutrition well into spring. Your Roothaven Grounds sweet potato success story awaits. There you have it, everything you need to grow an abundant sweet potato harvest right at home. This truly is one of the most beginner-friendly, high-reward crops you can cultivate, and honestly, I can't wait to hear about your success. Remember, gardening is a journey, and each season teaches us something new. Don't be discouraged if your first attempt isn't perfect. Even a modest harvest from just a few plants will taste better than anything from the store. If you found this guide helpful, please subscribe to Roothaven Grounds and hit that notification bell so you never miss our practical gardening tips. Share this article with fellow gardeners who might benefit, and drop a comment below telling me which sweet potato variety you're most excited to try. Let's grow together and create thriving, productive gardens that feed our families and nourish our souls. Happy gardening, friends!